I realized that the issues that we all face, regardless if you're a small company or a large company, or for-profit or not-for-profit, in essence winds up being the same. You know, you have the same issues of not just capital, but you have the same issues of people. How do you manage people? How do you lead people? How do you let people lead and manage you? I have two of the people in the room from my not-for-profit that I started 20 years ago, and one of them probably manages me more than I manages her. Saw an ad that said if you wanted to start your own business. So we filled it out on the airplane, being gung-ho about everything, and 20 years later, we're about a $30 million not-for-profit servicing people throughout New York City and to New Jersey in the next year. With that, I can tell you that the leadership and the management and the strategic thinking process is an ongoing process. So what I will talk to you about are some things that have really helped me, but what I do enjoy the most is the exchange of questions. So feel free to stop me, feel free to interrupt me, and also feel free to challenge me, because I think that's the way I learn as much as I think you will learn. In the spaces of startups these days, what I find to be the most interesting thing about leadership, you hear about transformational leadership, you hear about a team member approach to leadership, you hear about a number of different types. But I believe that authentic leadership is what really is going to help all of you and help all the people that are going to come to you really kind of want to stay with you. When you think about the 70 employees, what they're really going to want to hear is someone who has real life experiences, that they really understand what leadership is about. And in the same way, understanding that leadership is, I didn't like when my supervisor or boss did X, so I'm not going to do it. It's that type of authentic leadership that I think is going to assist. So what came out of that at Evelyn Douglas Center for Serving People in Need was Everybody Matters, which is a simple concept that if you work together at the same time, in the same direction, towards the same goal, you would be able to accomplish things. So we've been able to really create a culture where people understand that you are needed to contribute, that you are needed to add value, and if you don't, this is the tough part, we have to let you go. It's a really kind of, I think, an authentic approach to leadership and management. You all want people who are going to work with you and work for you, who want to be there, who want to add value every day. How many of you have ever worked with someone who you just knew was not pulling their weight? And when you think about it, thank you. When you think about it, you kind of realize that to do something different.
Sorry about that. My wagons
Okay. I'm dealing with the allergies, the whole thing, so sorry if my voice is a little raspy. But they would have been better served for themselves and for the company if they would have found a way out. So what I really focus on with all the companies I work with and speak to is 6 principles. Principle 1 is unity stabilizes the and the whole crew member matters. You're going to love that one. It's one of my favorite. 4, communicate clearly to stay on course. 5, problem solving, course correction. And 6 is everybody matters, or every crew member matters. And I'll start from the bottom up, because I think you'll kind of understand why unity is really important if you can get to the concept of everybody matters. I think there are exceptions to the rule. One of the other styles of leadership is situational leadership. And as a leader, you're going to need to kind of understand all types. But I think that if you keep these 6 principles in mind, regardless of the situation, you kind of know everybody matters. So even with, if, for instance, you have an employee who is absolutely incorrect, and you know that they're wrong and it's not going to work, situationally, everybody matters. So in that moment, simple just listening to them, getting other people's input on it, is obviously dealing with the situation, but still getting to the place where that person is allowed to be heard. So you want to kind of create that environment. So there are exceptions, and I mean, and I'll bring something that's happening in the world. I saw this thing yesterday. I think we all saw it in Baltimore, and how crazy it is that regardless of what your opinion on all of it that's happening, Ethiopia, etc., you have this thought that people don't feel valued, that people are living and they don't feel like anyone wants to hear them, anyone thinks that they have something to contribute, etc. It's the same thing in your business. They don't feel like they can talk to you. It's really just going to be an environment. I mean, I'm 42. So, in my 20s, I probably was that employee that didn't want to listen, and it was my way or the highway. But at some point, you have to create spaces where, even if it doesn't go your way or their way, the exchange of ideas and the exchange of opinion, you develop in the app. So even if it winds up being, well, we don't have the capital for this right now, we can do this in phase 1, this in phase 2. But if people sit in the room and they all get to exchange their ideas, then you can kind of feel that people will feel like they're adding some value. So you want to kind of create that space in an everyday type of environment. One thing that we do at EDC Spin, which is the acronym we use, is occasionally I've done a state of the agency address, which allows them to hear everything I'm thinking and allow them to challenge me on everything that they think we can't do or we shouldn't do. For instance, I wanted to do daycare services for both disabled and non-disabled children about 5 years ago. And speaking with the team, it was one of those things where we weren't ready for it. We didn't have the infrastructure, we didn't have the employee capital, we didn't have the space in order to do it. For it if I didn't get everyone the same.
How often do you get people together?
Well, the management team, the cabinet gets together every 6 weeks. We get the whole agency together once a year for that type of event. But within each program, there is approximately 8 or 9 programs. Each program has their own staff meeting where their exchange of ideas occur. And the other thing that happens, because we deal with people and provide a service, which includes clinical supports, other community supports. So they get together to kind of decide on what happens to the individual. But it doesn't have to be a uniform thing. It could be, well, we have this new project coming on, we have a grant that someone's going to give us some money for, let's get together and talk. And don't be afraid to get together over dinner or drinks, but you guys are techies, so you all get over drinks, right? 5 is problem solving. Works for me, so it might be situational with someone else. You get 60 seconds to talk about the problem. I'll spend hours on the solution. I'll spend days on it if we have to. But kind of getting away from the concept that we can talk about the problem forever. And I think that has really served us early on in our career, in my career, later on in my career, where people understand, if I'm gonna come and talk to Charles about a problem, I got 60 seconds, so let's get in, but then I have the rest of the hour or so to talk about what we possibly can do to change. And but if we look at what the opportunity is and how we can resolve some things, I think we'll all be better. Any questions on that? But you all understand what I mean. Like, typically, there's a lot of people who spend just days on what's going on for everyone. Okay, so obviously you should be talking about money because it's always going to be talking about, okay, with what we have now, how can we improve what we're on a blanket. Before it's not, it is communicate clearly to stay on course. We do a lot of messaging at Everett Douglas Center. We have some values that are posted throughout the office where people understand what's important to us. And I think that the nonverbal is something that you should pay attention to as much. Back in. If you're ever in a meeting and someone shifts, do something to change, because either the room is too warm, it's too cold, they really don't want to be there, or they might already understand what you're talking about. So you kind of want to either move on or spend more time on a particular issue. A lot of it also is that some people will not like you, and that's okay. Understand that that has to be okay, but also understanding that they're communicating something and you're equally communicating something. For people who don't care for my leadership, and I would love to believe that everyone loves me, but they don't, what I often have done is find opportunities to talk to them one-on-one, to really communicate with them so they clearly understand what I'm totally about and not what they either think I'm about or what they assume I'm about. So, and that has actually served us well, where we had an employee that, you know, we were very close to actually asking them to leave because of the whole that they were, that these two individuals weren't able to get along on the team. But once we were able to kind of resolve that issue with the person and create a subcommittee, which allows them to still be involved, but try to figure out. They're still there. When I say a little bit longer, meaning that who knows what will happen. But I think the one thing you get from me is I'm not afraid to confront the problem, and I think that the one thing that even startups are really afraid of is letting people go. Don't be afraid to let someone go out your business, because if not, your business could possibly fail. It can possibly slow down. It won't thrive as much as you like. And I think that that's the challenge I always find in startups. It's happened to us. We've given an example. At some point, we had obviously hired a lot of our friends and family. And that wasn't always a good idea. And, you know, we got to the place where it was either the survival of our business or maintaining really bad relationships with family and friends that weren't conducive to the business. So we actually, those are people who have left. And obviously we have a lot of people where there's a policy, you know, that staff members and other low-level, entry-level managers, they can invite people to come and work. But you can't be supervised by somebody that you know or have a personal relationship with. I don't invite any of my family or friends to work at the organization just so that there is any conflict. Because once you build friendships and really close relationships with them, most people are not your friends.
You say that applies to real estate startups as well, right? You know, I have three friends that we work very well together. You might want to do something else, but we obviously have a friendship outside of work now as well. You know that.
Yes. I have actually had a brother and a sister who worked for the organization, and they no longer work there. I just felt that it wasn't conducive to other people understanding that no one gets special privilege, no one gets special attention. At any point, as you being the leader of it, that those friendships come in conflict with other employees begin to see that there's a little bit of favoritism, you can possibly have problems. And this is an exception. It doesn't happen to everyone. There are some people who can really clearly separate. But the minute that those relationships affect your business, you wind up being in a position where you have to make a decision.
Well, a lot of times though, people try to start companies with people that know well, because there is it's suggested that what stops working, they can move on it. But how about at the outset?
I think I think in the outset it's important. Me and the co-founders started the organization. We were friends at the time. We're no longer friends for a lot of other different reasons. But I think what happened is understanding the type of friendship you have. There are people, and obviously my brother and sister are still my brother and sister. We still have holidays together and other things. But you know, you wind up realizing at the start, and we all know the people that are our friends. We all know, are they going to pull their weight? We kind of all have a good idea, or should have a good idea, if this person's going to be a problem, but they're very good at X. I've had some situations where there have been people who were very good at getting the word out, but they weren't good at interacting with people internally. So we had to either create something where they could thrive in that particular space, or it wasn't going to fit. I think in the outset it's important, and I think that's the only way anything starts. I don't think it should not be stopped.
What do you do to build trust with people? It's like wanting to be open, but actually achieve trust.
I think, you know, I use things like, I'll tell you what I can tell you and I'll tell you what I can't. So and that could mean financing, particularly for us. A lot of people want to know where the money is in the organization. We can't talk about it. It is just for those who need to know. So being as clear and as honest as possible. And this is the whole, I'm glad you brought it up with communication. You know, people can tell if you're lying, people can tell if you're avoiding them, people can tell if you're not being honest. And occasionally, you know, it was a real stressful period for the organization. We really passed a lot of audits. We rented out a back space of a bar and invited all the people that were involved in management there. I stayed 10 minutes, talked a little bit about why we did it, and then left. But it created an opportunity for them to really enjoy each other, but also build trust that Charles understands what we're going through. So, Daniela, am I missing anything?
The company that not all staff need to know about. And that's made clear to them. Like the CFR, physical parts, area is not something that can be devoted to. You're not kept away from it, but you're just not told, like, this is something that, guys, we're working on, we're doing. Carl doesn't keep it away from it, but at you know, it's not, you don't need to know, but at the time we need to know, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna foreshadow, I'm gonna forecast. And I think that gives them just because they're not finding it out in the media, how things are changing, he's telling them in advance and helping them.
So in your particular industry, they've already heard it. One thing we were doing this summer, we're actually doing two things. One, we're doing an art show for some of our consumers who do a lot of art in Williamsburg. We're looking at a place in Williamsburg. And that really came out of the idea of the staff in the programs deciding that they wanted to do something other than what we traditionally have done. But that also builds trust because now they have a stake in what's occurring. The staff are throwing a summer party where all the staff would get to come free, but they're going to invite any and everyone money, and they're going to raise money for the organization. It builds trust because now they're a part of whatever we're doing. When you keep people away, it kind of also lets them feel excluded. So try to find ways to bring them in. The team paddle. The reason why I like this one the most is, and this occurs in even our own startup, there were people who we brought on, not just friends or family, but other people as well, who wanted to be the leader ahead of time. They wanted to tell those in charge what to do instead of trying to offer suggestions and recommendations. And you have to say that so obviously with the board of directors, there are decisions that don't we have the best interest of the company at heart. However, the decision will be made here. And I don't want to talk about a generational difference because I think that the same issues that a 20-year-old are bringing into the place, someone who's 40 or someone who's 50 is bringing the exact same issues these days. It doesn't appear to be generational. And the perspective has always been, I know better than you. You've been waiting on me. I don't know how you did all of this by yourself because now, and kind of allowing them to vent that and express that and get as many ideas as you can out of that, but also letting them know not the leader because, you know, there's something that occurs in the tech space a lot. And it's this one thing about the team member leadership, where like everyone comes in, everyone votes on a decision, and we make that decision. That's good in some cases, but I think you all can probably agree that in some cases it's not. In some cases, those decisions can't come to the group. They have to kind of stay away.
Oh, it's super annoying.
It is
One
very
of the most annoying. I mean, in the early stages of companies, you often are recruiting quite talented people, and they're pretty valuable in the regular world. How self-entitled engineers often feel from the city. but it's true in other departments of the company.
Sure.
And it's very difficult to get people to think, actually, you are in charge, you should decide. And for first-time managers, like, they don't even know what words to say.
Right.
To create that.
It-
What words should they say?
It's something I was going to talk about at the end, but I'll spend some time on it now and finish in the end. Okay.
What you deal with your, we deal with our PhDs and our doctors and different people in our field. And the one thing that Charles does, he's done in meetings is, if you're changer, that's put on blast. You can bring your opinions or you can bring different things to the table, but you have to bring it in a way that's conducive. And you have to bring it in a way that's not going to change the atmosphere of the room. It's not going to be in a way.
The annual meeting is that long, and I'm giving a speech. I think it's going well. People are asking questions, we're engaging. And she raised her hand, I called her, and she said, "You're doing it wrong." You know how if someone says that, the whole, like Daniela said, the whole mood changed. I said, you just did something that's so inappropriate. You didn't understand that you're supposed to be here offering suggestions. You just changed the whole mood, and you're wrong. We can think about what you want to do. We can take that suggestion under advisement, but I'm telling you what we're doing to anything. She changed the whole bad for the room. But what I was going to add is that one thing I think this is the pizza in the airport, and I declined because and I think that's the piece where you hear the difference between paddlers and captains. Captains are really trying to invest in themselves and invest in, but you have to spend more time doing more of this leadership development. Entity when we were 5 million, 10 million, 25 million. So the more as a captain, you're going to have to do.
No.
The second principle is purpose. People have to understand why you're building. The whole organization. And part of that is I want the entity that I'm leading and that's what we tell people, that we're not looking just to do X, we're looking to do the whole outfit. But also the people who are going to build it, people who are going to participate. Stay true to what we call our mission, to what you might call your purpose. And then the principle one is unity. It just fun when it all works. You have to really make sure that you celebrate them and you and like you. There's somebody I'm working with in Portland, Maine, and he has a group of staff that they think about them that they don't like, that overpower or overshadow all the things they like. And part of the leadership is you really have to enjoy it. You really have to like your company. You know, you don't have to agree with you, but they really do have to say, you know, someone's a good person. I think, you know, he's cool or she's cool and I can hang out with them. And that will bring a level of unity that people will particularly help.
That unity thing, I mean, there's a little bit of contrast to some of the folks you mentioned about being captains. There's someone I know who, you know, pretty accomplished professional, really told me, oh man, the big thing I learned this year is somebody doesn't like you, it's not because they're a problem. And I'm like, what the fuck, where have you been? That person who doesn't like you is doing a massive obstacle, and you can't just keep that tension by saying, fuck you, you don't like me, it's your problem. You find a way to resolve it. So this to me is a self-evident principle. But it is a trap that I think many early managers confront, and I had this problem many times over the years, is that you actually, in order to be liked, you fear confrontation. And that's like, you called out that person in that meeting for your wow, you humiliated us, and eventually, that was a risky thing to say. I wonder what your counsel is about maintaining unity when sometimes it requires,
And please add anything, and it goes back to the leadership. Everybody in that room, or at least some people in that room, felt, how dare she? How dare she? So sometimes confronting the issue is where, as someone who's also been an employee at companies, I would have never thought to do that. And if I would have heard it, I probably would have been, is this person crazy? You know, so it's also the confrontation allows you and allow people to trust that you're not going to just be a pushover as a leader. You're not just going to allow yourself or allow anyone to say anything that's inappropriate in the situation, especially when you're trying to build unity. If I'm confrontational myself, then yeah, roll tomatoes, do whatever you have to do. But I think confronting people and calling people out also allows other people. And it is what is equally relevant in some ways and might contradict as well, is it's okay if people don't. Like, it has to be okay. Because if we try to create these environments where everybody likes everyone, it's not going to happen. A paddler and a captain at the right time. If every company, them liking you does help. But if falter in any possible way.
I know that, like, when I think about unity and like purpose, right? On behalf of it, there's some, you know, you want to have layers there, right? It's goes from 4 to 10, 20 to 50. That you can't go over one, right? You want to make sure that you're recruiting people, so those people are generating unity in the teams, and they're the ones who share the same message, and reinforce it so that you have, you know, actually dozens of views around, you know, that identical but the same shared version of purpose and culture.
A really important point, because what happens is you will, as the leader, will always be the face of the organization. Regardless of what I attempt to do, the face will always be the person who is the head of it. But when you create these silos of people or silos of departments, you have to really make sure that you're spending time where, you know, and I guess I'll go back to it when the company, I was in law school. It was a year before I graduated from law school, and I went to practice in 2007. And the leadership as the number 2, not the number 1, because I had to go get a master's in public administration so I could learn what leadership was. And a lot of people are developing that leadership skill. So you're going to develop it as the leader, and this goes to the point of the separate departments. You got to make sure that those department heads also develop it. Because as a lawyer, I'm taught to protect. You know, I'm taught to make sure people get out of trouble, et cetera. That's what we do. But however, some training also. Because it's really different to have people who's never things to worry about, and those department heads must be understand. When the policy and procedure is being developed by the board and the lawyers, et cetera, and HR department, we do a massive training of everyone so that people understand the different limitations and the boundaries, et cetera. But those department heads are going to either get you in grave trouble or be able to really support the leadership.
How do you deal with politics within an organization as a group?
As it grows, I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. There's a game that we all play in our companies, if we're the captain or the leader. A lot of times I have to give in on things that I don't want to give in on because politics is, and making sure that you're respected and other people are respected as well. The number twos of the organization, so that way we can push a further agenda. If it means what I want waits a week or waits a month, it's okay. Because all of your customer service is going to be huge. You have to give a little. Customer service rep, what can you give me to make me happy and feel better? It's the same thing in a company. If you have to have Pizza Fridays to make them feel good, Pizza Fridays is much better than what you cost for labor relations. So, it is what it is. That's the best way to say it.
What are some of the challenges that you run into with involvement? Because I find so many companies are out there involved in something else or on a greater scale and then it has to tweak. Basically, it take a week for them to body that same purpose that
or is that inside of the?
it's all over. Even our board members,
It's a struggle to do it, and this is where I think strategic thinking and planning comes into play. Is that you as a leader things are happening in the industry and your field, and some of the decisions that we need to be thinking about. And then when it comes a moment where you have to make that decision, they've already gotten a lot of framework throughout a year or throughout 12 months to say, well, the industry is going. We have to evolve a little bit. But a lot of it has to go back to the communication. How do you communicate so people understand that the landscape is not the same? And I can tell you, no matter what, the simplest thing as Dwayne Reed. Dwayne Reed would never change. When you look at the other industries and other things that they do, you have now, and I go back to Dwayne Reed, there's some Dwayne Reeds in CBS because there's a market and they have to change. But what you message because you need the first 10 and you also need the second 10. They take input obviously from anyone, but they set the mission and they set the tone, and then it's usually adopted by people. And what you should do or think about doing is setting it broad enough that it can go up and down in any kind of way. Because when it's broad, there really isn't this, room that I have to go back for approval or buy-in every time something new happens. For instance, you want to bring applications to the world in this particular space. You've already, with that simple statement, he's going to be able to get this whole consensus because everyone already knows we build apps that are going to. Oh, there's always a sales pitch. There's always a sales pitch. About that. And yeah, thank you. What really just building consensus with their organizations, with their companies. Bringing someone else in to do the initial phases it's easier enough for them in order to get you to the place where you can take over. Because one thing I can tell you, to go back to startups, a personnel policy is something most startups don't have. And initially, I did not have a personnel policy. See what I mean?
Like that.
It tells you what the parameters are. It tells you what the Daniela, go ahead and say.
Well, Charles gonna say maybe like you want to know about persona personal. Work for showing for New York and national what Department of Labor and EOC for all businesses will be looking. The parameters for policies.
It talks about days off. It talks about vacation. It talks about all the limitations. And see, I don't mean it in any disrespectful way.
We'll have that once you have 50 employees. Employee handbook needs to spell out.
Right.
Below 50, you're
You don't need it, but I think the one thing is that when you think about your projections, if your intention is to create a culture of those type of things, why would you wait? If you know that you want to be a company of 100 employees and 200 employees, it's better to get from the ground running so that people already know what to expect. And it's not that you can't have it. There's not a law that says you need to have it, but you can have it.
New York sick time law was effective April 1st, 2014, and you might want to, I don't know, because that doesn't matter if you have to be employed or not. The New York sick time law, which just went in April 1st, 2014, and you're going to have to provide sick time leave for all of your employees and employers, and they will be talking about that at the so.
You should send us a link to your email book.
I will actually. If you give me the email addresses, we'll send it out to you in the next half an hour or
Yeah,
so.
we'll send it around.
Yeah, it's just 6 principles I think that work. It's something that I think people have applied to their.
Charles.
Thank you.
Yeah.